issue with the council races coming up. So right now, I'll just turn it over to our Vice President of Programs, Marianne Jackson, and she'll introduce tonight's program.
Republican Women's February meeting. My name is Marianne Jackson, and I would like to thank each of you for coming out tonight to hear about the culture war on our youngest citizens, our precious children. Before our speaker begins, I wanted to share how much we appreciated everyone who participated in our program survey last month. We were able to tally up which topics you were most interested in learning about and what other activities you would like to see happen this year in our club. And out of the 8 Republican Party of Texas legislative priorities, the top 3, most of y'all who participated, picked were, number 1 was protecting our elections, number 2 was securing the border and protecting Texans, and number 3 was banning gender modification in children. Wow. So thank you for filling that form out. If you still haven't done one of those surveys and you're a member of the club, you can see me. I have some extra paper forms that you can complete, and we can get your feedback. The top 3 social events, this is to give you a personality of what our club is like. The first one was have lunch and learn together, discuss a nonfiction book or documentary. Number 2 was to go to a field trip, a place like Austin or a historical site. And the third most favorite thing that you guys wanted to do was a tie between going to the gun range and girls' night out, dinner and painting or making a craft. So like I said, we do have some surveys. If you were not able to give us your 2 cents, we are very interested in what you would like to get out of our club this year. We also have some handouts from last month. If you missed January, we were treated to a really sweet, she was 80 years old. She still participates in Austin. She has her apartment there now. She lives in the Fort Worth area. And she left some of her handouts. If you didn't get a handout from last month and you're interested in how to be a citizen lobbyist, we do have about 10 or more handouts left, so just let me know. So like I was talking about, our club is looking at the top 8 Republican Party of Texas legislative priorities, and one of them was, like I mentioned, is to ban gender modification. So all across the state of Texas, when we were at the state convention this past summer, the various citizens across our state chose that they wanted to see our legislators work on that Texas must ban chemical castration, puberty blockers, cross-sex hormones, genital mutilation, bodily alteration surgery, and any other methods applied to or performed on children. I don't know about you, but weekly I see headlines about grassroots organizations like Texas Family Project, the Texas GOP, True Texas Project, something called NAS Resistance Texas, fighting various medical groups. Recently it was shared that the Texas Child Mental Health Consortium, so this is the Mental Health Consortium, got $113 million of our taxpayer dollars to last session to push transitioning kids and not telling parents. So how much money will they get this session? Anyone interested in going to that field trip to Austin now? Yes. It's insanity. And one of the Senate bills, I don't know if you're following, I know my friend Tom Novis, he sends us lots of good stuff. And thank you, Tom, for all that great work you do. Yes, we work so hard. So one of the Senate bills that I would suggest you might follow. If you have a pen, you want to write this down, is Senate Bill 250, which is relating, it's kind of an unusual kind of thing, but they're relating to the provision and professional liability insurance coverage for gender transitioning. So the only way they can get to the doctors is like through the insurance type stuff. Or gender reassignment medical procedures and treatments for certain children. And they say children or anyone under 18 years old. So perhaps Dr. Farella may shine some more light on why Senators Hall, Campbell, and Perry wrote this bill. And it's nice to know that we have a warrior like Dr. Farella in our midst, and she's just down the road, and she's fighting for children. We had her come out before, and I'm just very excited for you to get to hear her again. There are so many horrific things happening medically to our young. And so let me tell you a little bit about this young woman here. Angelina Farella is an independent solo practicing pediatrician, and she's the owner of a clinic called A Bright Tomorrow Pediatrics. I do know there's people in Tomball, after you spoke, that drive to go see her, take their child way over there. And she's in the Webster. She's a board certified by the National Board of Physicians and Surgeons. She graduated from top medical schools. Her resume, we put a couple flyers around, you got those sent to you. She has top credentials to be a top-notch physician. You might have seen her on Newsmax or Fox 26. She's been on the Michael Berry Show as well. And she has been on the McCullough Report. How many of you know who McCullough is? All right, that's my litmus test if you're really conservative and you've been fighting these various mandates. And she's been on various other radios and podcasts. If you've seen the documentary in 2020, anybody remember seeing 2020 with us? Okay, if you've seen that documentary, and if you haven't, go back and watch it. It was we saw it back in the spring of 2021 here in, I think we met down the road. She's testified in front of several legislation boards to fight against the vaccine and mask mandates that impacted children. The Yellow Rose Education Committee was very thankful. This was one of our first events we ever put on as a committee. And in the restaurant we met at, it was packed. It was like a restaurant for about 50 to 60, and there was over 100 people squished in there to get to hear her. And the last time I got to hear you was when we were at the Republican Convention, and that room was pretty packed also. She was speaking with Dr. Robin Armstrong and Jennifer Bridges this summer. So on your tables, we have some little colored index cards. And so what we'll do is, as she's talking and doing her presentation, if you have a comment or a question that you'd like us to ask her, we will gladly come by and grab your little card, and we'll see how much time and how many questions we can get. So without any more talking, here is Angela Farella.
I'm gonna move her and shake her.
It's wired.
Well, good evening. Thank you so much for having me. I had to drive all the way from Webster to get up here, and yes, the traffic still sucks in Houston despite all the concrete. So, it's a little late that I got here, so that's all that's important. Thank you so much for coming out. For those of you that don't know me, I am a pediatrician. By trade. I became a big people doctor during COVID, for those of you that don't know, because most people know that if you were in an institution and had physicians in an institution, they closed all the doors to the outpatient clinics, and all of a sudden I started taking care of big people because the little people were fine. And there was, you may or may not have heard this, but I told many groups before that kids were a buffer during COVID, and if you were a grandparent or a parent or a teacher, you were the safest people ever. Let the kids lick you, and you get fun. So, don't listen to the mainstream media, they will tell you opposite. Okay, so we're talking today a little about a touchy subject that shouldn't really be that touchy, to be honest. Okay, gender, we know that biological gender is obviously female and male, okay? XY is male. Sorry guys, but you know, it's a genetic deformation, we can't fix it, it's a protocol, it's all good. And XX is female. So everyone's born with either an XY or an XX. Pretty basic biology. You know, the confusion right now, which 5 years ago, this wasn't even a thing. Okay, this trans thing was not even a thing. I've been in pediatrics for over 25 years. Gender dysphoria is pretty rare, to be honest. It does happen. You will see those tomboys that are walking, the girls that don't really want to look pretty. They're hunched over, wearing oversized clothing, not wearing makeup, may cut their hair short. You know, it's kind of like the phase. The issue that we are having now is the children, unfortunately, have a very powerful tool, which is called a cell phone. And it is the cell phone that is hooked to a lot of misinformation that they funnel into when they're unhappy. Children, generally speaking, are pretty happy folk, but as you know, since all of us have been there, puberty sucks. And when you're going into it, a lot of times you're not comfortable in the skin you're in, right? So you'll see, like, let's just take 13-year-olds. That's kind of like my favorite, not favorite age group, right? So you have 13-year-olds that are 6'4", and then you have 13-year-olds that weigh about 80 pounds and are skinny as a rail and about that tall, right? So this is a very upsetting age group. This age group is very confused because, you know, they look at their best friend who's 6'4", and then they look at themselves, and so what they see in the mirror sometimes makes them upset. Pretty common. Here's what we don't seem to recognize as parents and grandparents and even physicians, is the fact that children do not fully mature until they're 26. 26, okay? That is when the prefrontal cortex pretty much matures. That means that they can make decisions, they understand consequence, they can plan in the future. 13 is where they have this dysphoric stuff come up. And part of it is peer related. So if you look at the statistics right now, if you look back about 10 years, it was a 0.1% of this group that was gender dysphoric and truly wanted to transition into the opposite sex. Now it has gone up 4,000%. 4,000. It's up to 9%. 80% of those people are female. These are young ladies that think they were born in the wrong body. Okay? That's a horror show. And if you watch their peer group, it's kind of like, you know, well, me and my friend think we should be boys, so therefore, and then they attract that. So it's a very dangerous fact is what it is. And so what we have to do as parents and adults is lead them to appreciate themselves. Because right now, they don't appreciate originality. They say they do, you know, they have the unicorn hair and the 50 piercings and whatever. But they really don't understand that it's okay to be different. And on top of that, of these kids, of this 9% of, you know, this is a guesstimate that they're doing, of this 9% of kids, the vast majority have more than three comorbid mental problems. The vast majority is an autism spectrum disorder. So think about it. Anyone that knows autistic kids or autistic people, because I'm in NASA area, the engineers, a lot of them are, and it's okay. It's okay. They become rocket scientists. That's what I always tell the kids. I'm like, who cares? So you have to understand that ASD has a very large spectrum. The kids get very depressed. They get very anxious because they don't feel right in the skin they're in, because they know, kids know that they're different. They get bullied, they get made fun of, and this is where I'm gonna hurt some feelers here right now. This is where Christians really have fallen off. We are not accepting and loving others. And we're not doing it to our kids either. And we're not teaching our kids to love others for their originality. I am on my kids' butts every day. I have 3 teenage girls. Need I say more? Pray for me a lot. But I'm on them because, this is a very tender age. I mean, they need the love and support and acceptance of their peers, but more, they will listen to their parent or their grandparent much more fervently than they will to their peer. Let me repeat that. A child will listen more fervently to their parent and take the side of their parent or their grandparent than they will to their peer. And most adults think the opposite, right? But if the parent or grandparent is not talking to the kid, then how are you going to know? Because it's easy to keep them at a distance because they're acting like a bunch of dorks. They're bothering you. You're trying to get them to do their grades, right? And here they are dyeing their hair pink. Really, at the end of the day, they need to sit on the couch next to you, watch what they're watching, and have a discussion. Get them off the cell phone. Do not allow them to have a computer in their room. This is a problem, people. Cell phones and computers are our 2 biggest enemies because these kids will Google it. Anyone hear of Tumblr? Tumblr? So Tumblr is a social media platform. This is where a lot of these kids are getting their information from. And when they walk into my office, they're not going to probably open up to me as much, but I'll start digging a little bit and a little bit. Sometimes you see weird things like the way they're applying their makeup. Have anyone heard of furries? You know what a furry is? It's where a kid identifies, where a human identifies as an animal. When was this a thing? I don't think I know I'm old, but I'm not done. We didn't have that. This is a new thing. This is a fact that is extremely dangerous. This is where's the mamas that go to the school boards? This is where the school boards want to put the stupid, what do you call it? Puppy papers in the bathroom or whatever the heck that is, Oh, yeah. It came up in my school board. I was at a heart attack. And yes, I was there. Shocking, I know you're all shocked. But this is something that we have to really pay attention to. So the girls will, what I call, dress down, right? They dress kind of, not really very feminine, sometimes more masculine. Is it the end of the world? No. We all heard of tomboys, and that's okay. We have effeminate males. That's okay. But what isn't okay is to, I hate this word, are you ready? Affirm that they are something that they are not. That is called going into their delusion. And in medicine, that's very dangerous. Unfortunately, some of these gender counselors, because we now have a new system called gender counselors, and these gender counselors are there solely to affirm what this child thinks at the time and leaves the parents out. This is very dangerous because there are some places across this country that will call CPS on a mother or father or both who will not affirm what the child has said. Let me get that through your thick skull. You ready? CPS is a weapon against parents. And they will come in and they will go against the parents' wishes. And I've heard story after story after story, and it's heartbreaking, where teachers and CPS and counselors, where your parents really not knowing where to go. And I'll tell you the truth, a lot of teachers don't know where to go. Because this kid comes in and you're like, Okay. Let's get some counseling. And you think you're doing them a favor by getting them to someone who's a quote unquote expert, when actually it's probably going to kick you in the tail. So you have to, what I tell people is, listen, first of all, that child grew up in your ecosphere, right? So whatever that looks like. If you guys are a Christian family, go to a Christian counselor. That's not a popular sentiment, okay? I tell people this a lot. I'm like, do not send your child who is dysphoric to a gender counselor, because really what their job is to do is to make money for that gender transition spot. Here's the sickening part about it. The vast majority, and I'm talking anywhere from 65 to 98%, 65 to 98% of kids that say they are trans will back off of that by the time they're about 25 or 26. So could you imagine going from, I should be a boy, right, if you're a female, because this is a popular thing for girls. I was born in the wrong body. Now these girls had no dysphoria or problems their entire lives. These girls were girls their entire life, and then they hit teenage school, teenage area, tweenish, and all of a sudden they think they're a trans male. This is a big problem because they probably have obviously they have image issues, right? Well, who doesn't when you're 13? You're weird, you trip over your feet, sometimes you're too tall, sometimes your body's changing, the girls don't like it, the boys don't like, no one likes it. It's a very hard time for these kids. What they need is they need their parents to affirm that they love them, and they need someone to just listen to them. And I know we all had 13-year-olds, right, who just like cross their hands and give you the eye roll, because I have one now. Mom, bruh. If I hear the word bruh, which isn't even really a word, one more time. But this is how they talk to you, right? Like it's not that deep. You're right, it's not. But this is what we need, and it's hard. Sometimes it's like pulling teeth out of our kids to just say, hey, what did you do at school today? But what's awesome, though, is if you start to open up the dialogue, the kids will start to roll things out. But you have to open up the dialogue, and you have to be comfortable with a very uncomfortable subject. This isn't comfortable. It's not even comfortable for me. And I see kids every day. So one thing that the kids have to understand is like, it's okay to be original, right? It's okay to be different. Everyone's different. I mean, find your twin, and then we'll talk. Because unless you are a twin, you're not going to find one. So the kids have to understand that that's what makes them beautiful. That's what makes them original. That's what makes them do this. The problem is, once they get to those counselors, that's the first step to affirm their gender identity, which is different than their sex or their biological identity. Okay, so keep that in mind. And then the next step, after they are quote unquote affirmed by the counselor, then they may be assigned either puberty blockers or cross-sex hormone therapy. So a female will take testosterone, a male will take estrogen. They probably don't ever tell people what the side effects of those things are, because puberty blockers are not reversible. Let me say that again. Puberty blockers are not reversible. You can ask the endocrinologist, and I would be very bold if you ever have this happen to you, be extremely bold and say, I want to know every side effect of a male, biological male, taking estrogen. And I want to know every side effect of a biological female taking testosterone. Now, ladies in the room, if you're older and you took testosterone, you felt amazeballs, but you're a full-grown adult, and most likely postmenopause. I'm not talking that. This is a whole different thing. This is a growing body that has not actually matured, has not gotten all the secondary sexual characteristics yet in place, and so therefore, this is dangerous. Okay? So what they do not tell the men, biological men that are trans that take estrogen, they can get breast cancer. Breast cancer in males is pretty unusual. I'm just gonna go there, okay? They don't tell them that they also get osteopenia and can break their bones. Estrogen breaks men's bones. Never thought of that one, huh? Didn't think of that one? There are so many side effects. I'm gonna pull it out of my pocket. Maybe I am, maybe I'm not. I wrote it down because there were so, I wrote it down because there's so many. So this is estrogen in males. These are the side effects. Are you ready? Blood clots, strokes, breast cancer, bone wasting, heart disease, stroke, gallstones, high triglycerides, as if we don't have problems with that already, right? And here's the big whopping one, sterility. Think about it. It's not reversible. These kids have no idea. Most of these kids that do this have never had a sexual encounter. They have no idea what's going on. None whatsoever. This is something that they fixate in their head and go on. For females, testosterone in females, blood thickening, severe liver dysfunction. So they're knocking their livers out. Can't live without a liver, by the way. Heart disease, stroke, breast or uterine cancer, high blood pressure, weight gain, acne, and sterility as well. They never tell the kids that it's not reversible and they will become sterile. That is a very scary thing because these kids don't know, right? Because a lot of kids will say, oh, I never want to have kids. I don't want to have kids. You're 13, how do you know what you want? You don't even know what to eat for breakfast, for crying out loud, right? You don't even know what college you want to go to. You don't have no idea what you even want to do for the rest of your life. And now you're making a life-changing decision. So they get top surgery, which is a radical mastectomy, not reversible. They will get hysterectomies, which puts them into early menopause. Not only does it put them into early menopause, it also causes early dementia. Okay? So this is not just a thing for now. We have some serious problems coming down the pike in the next 5-10 years. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. Because currently, like I told you, 65 to 98% of gender dysphorics will become completely resolving as an adult. Many of them may be gay or lesbian, but at least they didn't completely destroy themselves, right? And again, some of them don't. Some of them don't. There's actually a case currently of a girl who's deep transitioning. She transitioned and now she's going back to her original biological sex, who has completely disfigured herself. So she had top surgery. And she's actually suing Kaiser Permanente in California. So, are you ready for this shocker? And you're not gonna like me. For those of you that love Texas Children's Hospital, they have a gender clinic. They are fully prepared to hurt our children here in the Houston area. So the Mecca, in my opinion, is not so much the Mecca. It's an absolute disaster. Texas Children's needs to hear from us. Because since when does 0.1% of the population rule over the 99.9%? And it's not just us, right-wingers that are worried about this. There's a lot of people on the left that are working with these kids that are absolutely horrified about what's going on. These kids are not getting proper counseling. They see the counselor once and they get a check mark that says, they're fine, let's go, let's move on. And once there's some diagnosis about gender dysphoria, all their other psychological issues are dropped. And they are not cared for. So if they're depressed, well, guess what? Changing your gender is going to fix that. If they are autistic, which autistic people are very black or white. There's no gray. Now, put in a 13-year-old who has zero discernment. Everyone knows 13-year-olds, right? They're very black or white. They don't understand consequence. It's a developmental milestone. They haven't even hit it yet. That's an actual developmental milestone that hits around 13 for girls, a little later for boys, that actually teaches them discernment, and they start to see the gray. Okay, so like the best test of that is if you ask a kid, what does someone who lives in a glass house should not throw stones mean? And they're going to say, well, if you throw the stone, it's going to break the window. But if you get older, when you say that, then they might actually understand what the underlying meaning of that saying is. I'm from New Jersey, we used to use that saying all the way, like I'm crazy. We'll talk about it later, no. But this is kind of like a developmental thing that they're manipulating these children that haven't even gotten to a developmental stage where they can even understand what they're being told. They don't understand it. That's malpractice. Let me say that slow. Malpractice. For the counselors and for the physicians. And anyone in between. This is a very scary situation. Senator Bob Hall has asked me to testify on behalf of the great state of Texas. Specifically about this. Why should we ban it? Why? Since when is not manipulation, mutilation, thank you, I knew the words, my dinner's still there. Mutilation, okay. You know what they're doing is they're telling people, if you don't do this, you'll probably commit suicide. They're trying to hold the suicide carrot over, and you know what? It's completely untrue. Now, these dysphoric kids do have a higher rate of suicidal ideation. That doesn't mean that they are actively suicidal, because there's a difference between passively suicidal and actively suicidal. This could be just, a phase, and again, for those of you that have middle schoolers and high schoolers, or have been around them, you know that they say very stupid things out of their mouth all the time, right? Oh, I just don't want to live anymore. Oh, it would be so much better if I was dead. That's passive. That's not even real sometimes. So you have to dig down, because you have to know, do you have a plan? Do you have means to do it? And, can they actually carry this out? So what's happening, though, in these counseling sessions is that they're throwing that out. They're saying, oh, they'll definitely commit suicide. No, they won't. Suicide, thank God, is very, very, very rare. Even in this population. Now, this population does have a higher rate than the normal population, but it's still not that high, which thank God for that. And they also have not proven that transitioning decreases the suicide rate. As a matter of fact, that's a complete falsehood. Because transitioners have a 19% suicide rate, which is a horror show. So they're not happy, and it's this little carrot that they say, well, the kids in their heads are going, well, I don't like being a girl, so therefore, if I start dressing like one, I'll be happy. And then when they get to that point, well, if I get, when I get my top surgery, I will be happy. Oh, when I do my next thing, I will be happy. Like, this is their mentality. It's like they're chasing a carrot, but they never get to that point where they're happy. As a matter of fact, they're absolutely stinking miserable. And there are now they're calling to sisters now, like where they actually are going backwards. They made a transition, and some of them have completely mutilated their bodies. Completely. And now they're going the other way. There's actually a case right now of a young lady, Shock, who was going through the transition, going through the methods, on the hormones, who actually got pregnant. I know, figure that one out. I don't know. I can't wrap my brain around that one. But she got pregnant and it scared her, so now she's going backwards to go back to her biological being as a female and her original name. So these kids are playing pretend, right? Oh, I don't, and they do. Like I said, 5 years ago, this is not a thing. Not a thing at all. We never had this issue, ever. We had kids that were effeminate, and maybe they were exploring whether they were heterosexual versus homosexual, but we really didn't have this, I don't want to be a girl anymore, I want to be a boy. But I do have 2 patients that are a little older that walked in, you know, one day they were her, and then the next day they weren't. Oh, and the pronoun thing. Holy smokes, get that out of our schools, please. It's making me crazy. It's actually on my EMR, and I don't know how to get rid of it. Like, they just put it in there, and I'm like, I just ignore it. I pretend it's not there. Because anyone that thinks that they are a them or a there is mentally ill. That's called multiple personality disorder. And anyone that actually refers to that person in that way truly needs their head examined as well. This is ridiculous. This is not being loving. This is being manipulative. These people are manipulating. They're trying to manipulate us physicians too. And when I see that, I go ape. I go absolutely ape. Like, I can't stand it. I'm like, look, if you're an XY, you're a him. That's it. A he and a him. And if you're an XX, you're a her. And if you don't like it, too bad. Right? So I have 2 kids in the practice, and I knew them as the her. And then they come in as somebody different, and they pick up the most horrid names on planet Earth to be the opposite name.
Oh, no.
I'm not going to say what they are, but oh my goodness, where do they get these names from? And then they get upset with me because I know them as their old name. So it slips, and I'm like, oh. But these girls are absolutely the most miserable and vile. They hate their mother. They attack their mother in front of me in the room. And my heart just like, and I actually sat one of them down and I said, you have to understand, your mother's in mourning right now. Your mom's mourning you. Because when she had this beautiful baby girl, she went right to the Cinderella wedding and grandchildren. And now you don't even want your childhood pictures on her wall. It's her house. And this girl will not speak to her mother anymore because her mom would not take her pictures down. Can you believe this? And it's not the mother's side, it's the counselor that told her to do it. In great old Houston Montrose area. This is a crime that I don't know will ever get justice. I really don't think so. I don't think so. I mean, considering what's gone on over the last 3 to 5 years, I don't think so. And the other problem that I see is like the diagnosis of autism. I said this in 2020. I may have even mentioned this at the Market Cafe. Was in 2020, I said, if we think that we have an autism problem now, let's put the kids in masks and take them out of school and let's see what happens in 2025. I'm not even there yet. We're 2023. And the amount of problems with our kids that are small, with anxiety, and that need to get counseling and behavioral and developmental consults has gone up, like, incredibly. And I can't even get them into a speech therapist because they were like this for 2 years.
Yeah.
Speech therapy has gone up 300%. And that is one of the signal characteristics of a kid with autism. Because they can't communicate. And if they can't communicate, because they don't understand what's going on around them, because they didn't talk to people for 2 years, what is 10 years going to look like? And if I said what I just said was true, right? So we're going to have this increase, right, in the autism rate, and then we continue down this road of manipulation, what are we going to look like as a society in about 20 years? It's a really scary thought that none of us want to travel. I know I get scared about it all the time. I'm like, oh my gosh, what are my kids gonna have in 10 years? It's absolutely, and it's happening at the universities, it's happening all over. And it's under our nose because our school administrators allow it to happen. So homeschooling is the way to go. And if we can get money back from our taxes, because I pay a hell of a lot of taxes to Clear Creek Independent School District to do this garbage to our kids. It makes me sick. The books that are in the library, that is such an impressionable age. I mean, really, did you ever think that we were going to have to pass laws that says that we can't have drag story time in elementary school? Have you heard this? Is anyone else involved, or is it just me?
No, we're mad too.
I mean, my goodness gracious. What? There's no kids in there, I can't go. That's insanity. We have to pass a law like this is okay? When did it ever become okay? And if you're HEB shoppers, I'm going to tell you to boycott, because they're the ones filming it. Boycott. Talk with your money. If your kids don't go to the school, they can't fund the activities, right? Because it's our money buying the silly little tchotchkes so that kid can go to a field trip or whatever. We need to talk with our money. We need to tell TCA to go fly a kite, stop taking your kids there, stop telling your neighbors that they're a great institution, get them the heck out of there, and start supporting the people that support your values. So, I don't even know where else to go with that. I mean, really, honestly, it's like, good grief almighty. But I wanted to let you know, because it was alluded to. I did bring Seeing 2020, I brought one copy, and I also brought the sequel. So if you didn't see the sequel, we got the sequel too. And I'm gonna leave this with our ladies so that if they want to do like a, question, maybe we'll do some questions, and if we get the right answer, we'll get the prize, right? And I also brought this book, right? Let America Live, Stella Emanuel's book. But what's even cooler is that I have a chapter in it. So, and I'll sign it.
What's the title?
Let America Live. And so my chapter's in here too. I wrote a chapter for her. If you want a copy of Seeing 2020, you can always QR code it. I have a QR code up here for you, and I have some business cards. And I also have another book called Life is Messy, which is the ramblings of a Christian who's just as confused as we all are. So this is not bad for you. Does anyone do you have questions for me? Okay. Don't make me read them because I don't have glasses on.
Okay, someone just wrote not insanity, but depravity, evil.
Absolutely.
Should we try to extend legislation before 25?
Hello? Okay. Should we try to extend legislation beyond 25 years?
Yes. In my opinion, yes. Because remember I said the prefrontal cortex does not fully mature until 26. And I truly believe that they need to be a pretty mature adult to make this major decision, which is, so they're taking they're taking a mental health issue and making it a medical issue. This is very dangerous. Super dangerous. So they're saying that cure for mental illness is a major radical surgery. Surgeries, plural. Because there's a lot that they do.
The last time we did that was Sparkle and Water.
Yes, actually, you're right. And boy, didn't that turn out wonderful. So once they transition, they have to stay on hormones the rest of their lives. However, like I said, their lives are most likely cut short because of all of the other issues that are related to those hormones.
So do we know how long it takes for individuals on these different kinds of hormones to become sterile?
No, we don't, because this is a thing, right? This is a new thing. So it's kind of like, no, I won't be that much. Yeah, I will. Okay, so it's kind of like the bioweapon that we all just got zapped with over the last 2 years. So doctors are trying to catch up, right? So this is the same thing, like we're trying to catch up to something. Because don't forget, socialists and communists were planning this since 1960. We just figured it out a few years ago. We're way behind the 8 ball. Way behind the 8 ball. And if you don't see communism coming, y'all need to wake up. A lot more than you think you woke up 2 years ago. Wake the hell up, and I'll wake you up even more because they're taking medicine. When they take medicine, they take your life. Do you understand that? We have death panels already, and it's called Blue Cross Blue Shield, Aetna, Cigna, Medicare, Medicaid. It's happening. It's happening every day. I keep telling this to people, stop being so wrapped up in your insurance company. Because it's crappy care and they're trying to kill you.
We agree. I know some of us agree. Okay, so how do you think the media, the medical community got so invested in this?
They didn't. They didn't. So 10 to 15 years ago, let me explain this because this might enlighten you a little bit. 10 to 15 years ago, 70% of physicians were independent. Let me say that again. Independent. They made their livelihoods on their own. 30% were, were employed in some way, shape, or form. In the last 3 to 5 years, that has completely flipped. I am one of the 30% independent physicians left in the United States. 70% are bought. When you are bought, sorry, I shouldn't use that term, employed. When you when you are employed, you have to follow the lessons of or lose your job, which you can see how wonderful that turned out with COVID. I mean, look at Methodist, right? Case in point. But we have lots of docs across the country that I know that have lost their jobs, not only lost their jobs, but lost their licenses because they would not comply. And, and God bless them, we're trying to support them, we're trying to do whatever we can, but two or three of them in Oregon completely lost their license. One because he didn't wear a mask and he showed and proved to the state of Oregon that there was no COVID in his office. They didn't care, they took his license. He's still in litigation with them. Another one's a pediatrician who didn't want to follow the AACIP guidelines on vaccination. They went after him, they suspended him, they took it away. Because again, pediatrics, we don't like to wear masks, we want to see the kids need to see our faces. They said, too bad, we live north and you don't need to wear a mask, goodbye. So that's 2. State of Maine, Dr. Nass lost her license because she stood up against Maine. So, I mean, the list goes on and on and on. Scott Miller, another guy in Washington State, lost his license. He's living in a tent in his children's backyard. A physician. It's happening.
Sorry, I'm the other doctor in the room. What I was talking about is like TMA, AAFP.
Yeah. And they're all falling to the left. So I go to, and hopefully you do, I go to First Tuesdays because I really want to know what their agenda is. Their agenda has been shifting. I was a delegate last year. I was voting against all these crazy socialist things. Of course, everything got voted down on my side, right? Or to the other side, including bodily autonomy for vaccination. For parents to say, look, I don't want to do this. All my resolutions, I had 8 or 9 resolutions specifically around safety for vaccination. They all got kicked out. So it is what it is. It's not that I'm going to stop trying. I'm still going to do it. But you have to understand that I think the physicians, some of them have not bought into it. They just blindly didn't even realize what's happening. They're following what they're being told and not looking outside. They're not looking outside. They're honestly not. I mean, it's pretty blatant that certain things in the study are very obvious. And then there's other things that, and I'm sure you call the CDC every day to ask them how to take care of your patient, right? Because I'm sure I do. When did doctors say, well, the CDC told us to do X? No, we call our sidewalk consult friend physician to help us with that patient. We don't call the CDC, the NIH, the FDA, the A, B, C, D, E, F, G, ATF. Might as well call me ATF. I mean, that's how good it is. EPA. Try the EPA. Maybe they'll give you that. It's ridiculous. All that alphabet soup needs to go.
So here's a good one. What happened to do no harm? Does the medical industry realize they are losing our trust?
Hopefully.
Have y'all figured this out yet?
Whew, the do no harm thing, I've been screaming this for eons. Pediatricians especially. I'm so disappointed in pediatrics, in the pediatricians in my work group. I mean, I mourned it in 2020, I really did. I went through a distinct mourning period saying, where's the pediatricians to protect our kids? And sadly, I would say 90% of them, if they won't speak out, which to me is cowardice and complacency, and Nuremberg will come after them too. But I think it's almost worse to feel the way I feel but not say anything, you know? And some of them are creeping out, but it's, well, you know, I have college, I have this. I'm like, so what? I have kids that are going to college, I have a mortgage, I have a car payment. I mean, come on, this isn't, that tells you they were looking for a job, and this to me is a calling. I was called to do, this is not a job for me, this is a calling. And I would not be able to lay my head down on my pillow at night if I didn't say something. So, I don't really understand why doctors forgot what the oath was. I don't understand, and now they're changing the oaths. If you saw that across the country. So the original Hippocratic Oath really isn't anymore. And that's a big problem. It's a huge problem. So, I mean, you might as well just pledge allegiance to Pfizer and, you know, whoever. This is ridiculous.
Are there any other gender mutilation clinics in the Houston area?
So many. No, but interestingly enough, the ones in the UK just closed because they actually looked at the data and they said this is not a good idea. Oh my gosh, isn't that shocking? But at least, you know, Europe is looking at this and saying this isn't a good idea. We need to back off. We need to stop this. But you know, Texas Children's just opened up that clinic. Like just opened. This is ridiculous. I don't know any other ones, but all we can do is pray, I think, and you know, petition TCH to close it. That's really.
So what bill from Senator Hall will you testify on?
It's the gender one. It's this one. There's a couple of them. I think there's 2 of them, 2 or 3, and they're just worded slightly different. I'll be testifying for probably both.
Like one Senate Bill 250.
We're going for a complete ban. I'm going for a complete ban. I don't know what they're going. I'm going for a complete ban of gender mutilation completely, whether it's medicinal, using hormones, or whether it's surgery. Frankly, I wish we could ban it up until age 99, because after 99, I don't care what you do. Unless you work your life. But I say the same thing about other things too. But truly, I don't think there's a place for it ever. Right? Or maybe I'm just weird, but I don't think there's a place for it ever.
So can you opt out, I don't know if it's a kind of a school question, can you opt out your child from school counseling if they are a minor?
Absolutely. Yeah, please, don't get me started with schools because I may never shut up. I truly believe, this is a truly Angie-held belief, that there's 2 things schools should never do. One of them is feed children. Affirm that, please. And the second thing is counsel. A guidance counselor can help them pick their courses for next semester, but they certainly cannot counsel them in life. And that's because they want to put a wedge between mama and daddy and child, and I think that is a horrible idea. So I don't think there should be any counselors unless there's a crisis, but that should be independent counselors that come in, again, my opinion, for that. I don't think there's any place. I even actually tell my families, do not go to the school for counseling, period, end of sentence.
Yeah.
So what's going on with the parents of these trans kids?
They're being arrested in the extremis, CPS, because the kids are actually being hijacked. Oh, so you think kidnapping is bad during 2020 and 2022, right? They will actually, so if a kid goes to, in certain areas, if a kid goes into the ER or whatever and says that they are gender dysphoric, and the parent will not affirm that belief in that child, CPS is allowed to come in, they will admit that child to the hospital, parents' visitation is completely cut off until a CPS investigation
Yeah. And they,
manipulates mom and dad to affirm that child's identity. Now, isn't that backwards, right? So now the parent has to conform to the child. What is going on? Since when is a kid able to tell us what to do as mama?
So who is at the root of this evil? Is it about money or power or something more nefarious?
Satan. This is flat out Satan. That's all it is. I mean, I don't have any better. If someone else has a better explanation, I'm all ears. But this is satanic. What's going on right now is satanic. Period. Everything.
And this question was, is it more girls that want to be boys or more boys who want to be girls?
80% of the transgender children are females that want to transition into boys. 80%. And it's usually in a peer group where a bunch of them will do the same thing. So this is a fad, and it's a very dangerous fad. And there are the detransitioners now, especially those that have mutilated themselves, are really coming out of the woodwork to say, this is a really bad idea, we made a mistake and we can't reverse it. I mean, once you get a hysterectomy, there's no uterine transplant. That's it, it's over. You're done. So those young ladies, they're sterile. So think about, here I go again, right? Conspiracy theorist number one. What are they doing? They are decreasing our population again in a vulnerable population. Again, this is not a hard leap.
Okay. Are there gender counselors in Texas?
Sure there are. There have to be with 6 age.
And are they in schools?
There's room in some schools, yes, like in Washington State and Oregon, yes. In Texas, I think that would be, but they're probably underground. They're not exactly going to advertise if they're in your school. Hey, we're affirming and counselor. You're not going to tell you that. I think parents would lose it. But they all have the resource. They have the resource to tell the child, here's the other beautiful thing, right? Again, leaving mommy and daddy out of it, they have the resources to give to the children for them to go to somewhere else to get this affirmation counseling without the parent. Okay? In some states, they don't need any informed consent, or that children can do their own informed consent as young as 11. I know 11-year-olds that can't tie their shoes. Okay? Do they really understand breast and uterine cancer? Do they understand what it means to be sterile? These are kids, now mind you, the vast majority of these children have never had a sexual encounter. Let that sink in. These are very, very, just little kids. They have no idea that they are destroying their entire adulthood. No idea.
And so the last part of this question is, so the strategy of giving the kid puberty blockers and then let them decide later is a myth, since it's not reversible.
Exactly. That is a complete and utter myth. So if someone tells you that, tell them to go fly a kite. That is absolute false information. That's disinformation. Any other questions?
Does the affirming thing going on with the people that are identifying as you're supposed to actually call it the name that is being, harassed to put a litter box in his classroom for a college age student who is a teddy bear class where it's being attacked. Is that going on in elementary and all that too?
They actually brought it up in our school district, and I come from that's ridiculous. I mean, now we're talking about cross species, right? Because we're human, and they're saying that they are identifying as a feline or a canine or whatever, cross species. Why are we, this is mental illness. Why are we entertaining this? And why are the teachers and administrators keying into a 12-year-old brat who's saying, I'm a cat, so therefore you have to put a litter box in the bathroom? I mean, come on. Is it bad enough? Is it bad enough that these new transgender kids are now going to be sitting in the toilet or in the stall or standing at the stall next to your kid? And a cat, yeah, next to a cat in the litter box. I mean, I don't know. I mean, we're in serious trouble, folks. We're in serious trouble.
So I have a question. Do you know if do you know if the teachers' unions are supporting this transitioning of children? What they're advocating?
Okay, so in Texas, the school, what is that, the Board of Education? The Board of Education just got taken over. Did you hear about that? Yeah, a little more conservative. Darn. They're trying to get rid of the crappy books. And they're trying to get rid of some of the very progressive teachings in the schools. So that is on their agenda to try to wipe some of this junk out and really start them focusing. I mean, folks, I don't want to insult you, but we're in the state of Texas and we're number like 43 in elementary education in the United States of America. That's disgusting. Our kids don't know how to read, they don't know how to write, they don't know how to do arithmetic because there's some common core weird ass math that no one knows how to do that they're teaching our kids. We've got to stand up and shout and take back our schools. I mean, that's just basic. Because if they're taking over our schools, they're taking over our kids' minds. This is what the SS Gestapo did in Germany in 1934. Think about it. And if you don't know what happened in Germany in 1934, blame the Texas School Department for not teaching you freaking world history. Because this is ridiculous. And I'm sorry, pie in the face. I don't care. Like this has got to stop. You know, when they're doing 3 weeks on Black History Month, but they're taking 2 days to teach people the president and our founding fathers in that same week. Are you joking? Our kids don't know who George Washington is anymore. They have no idea. And it's horror show. Who doesn't know who George Washington is? And they're taking down our statues. Because that's how you erase history.
Can you explain what you mentioned about HEB?
I'm sorry, are you going in this morning already? Am I going to shop? Hubert E. Butts decided that he is going to fund some of these drag shows for kids. Because, you know, that's a good idea. I don't know where it is, I have no idea. But HEB has funded drag shows for kids. Family friendly even. Wait, have you been to one lately? These are family friendly. Have you been there? Bring the whole fam, grandma, granddad, mom, dad, and kids. This is the dumbest thing I've ever done. Yeah, pride parades too, you know.
And the Holocaust Center.
And the what?
Holocaust Center. That's how.
We'll tell you about that.
Another thing that we studied.
I can see there's a couple more hands and people in the audience, and I know we're getting ready to, we're going to have to wind down. Is there something dying that we haven't talked about that you wanted to say?
And there are time with little 5-year-old boys versus girls and vice versa that are counted. These are like 5-year-olds. What is with those parents?
Mental illness. Now that's where CPS should be stepping in, by the way. It is a cult. It's an absolute, it's a nightmare. Okay, I'll shut up. Thank you so much.
I know that some of you came last month and I mentioned to you to watch a video called Mrs. America by Phyllis Schlafly. It's about conservatives. Well, I wanted to leave you with some homework. If you haven't heard what Dr. Farella has been talking about and you want more information, there's a book that a friend of mine asked me to read last year called Irreversible Damage, The Transgender Craze Seducing Our Daughters by Abigail Shriver. And if you go on YouTube, Abigail Shriver has various TED Talks and YouTube videos if you're not a reader. But one of the moms that I knew in this area of Tomball, our kids both went to a private Christian school. So if you think you're trying to escape even homeschooling and getting out of the public schools, I just want to let you know that the
Hi, beautiful.
culture
How are you?
on our phones, it's in, just grabbing our kids. So if you want more information, I encourage you to watch Angelina Farella as she speaks in Austin. I'm sure they'll record her, and you can see her on our,
So she got 2 pages.
in our legislature.
Are you sitting back there with Mommy and Grandma?
I just again would like to tell her thank you for coming all the way from Webster after a long day.
Thank you. All right.
One of my best friends.
A little bit of business to do, and then we'll get some cake and hear a little bit more business. So,
I'm gonna go and talk to
real
your
quick,
Mommy and
we
Grandma
need
just a
to,
minute after I finish my dinner,
minutes
okay?
of the last,
Okay, tell me,
meeting,
tell me.
which I sent out by email. So are there any corrections to the minutes? Okay, hearing none, the minutes will stand approved. Also, our treasurer, Pat Blair, gave us submitted a report, so we don't have to approve that, it just gets submitted into the record. And on the back of your agenda is the amount that we have in the bank right now, which I can't remember off the top of my head. But she also gives me a detailed report in the board meetings. For president's report, if I could get my servers to come up, okay, they're working on the cake. We want to just celebrate a little bit tonight. It's the club's 16th anniversary. Usually the 15th or the 16th, 16th, 16th. And this club, it's been around, it's been recognized for all the work it's done, both at the Texas state level and the national level, with club achievements.
I'm gonna come back there, Harper, in just a little bit.
Our members have been very active in elections, knocking on doors, making phone calls, writing postcards, and we've also served the community with our service projects. So we're very proud of